She deserves it more than you, Carol declares, voice saturated with the same condescension she's wielded against Eva since childhood. What have you actually accomplished to merit such luxury? Living alone in a penthouse while my brilliant Zoe faces substandard university housing options. Eva straightens her spine, a cold fury replacing her initial shock. Have you all completely lost your minds? Her voice emerges with unexpected authority. I will never surrender my property. Not today, not ever. I purchased that condominium with money I earned. Marcus's expression darkens ominously. Your money. Your aunt gave you $150,000. That's hardly your own achievement. Something fractures inside Eva. Years of silent endurance, of absorbing their emotional abuse, of maintaining composure, obliterated in a heartbeat. My aunt. Eva laughs, a sound like breaking glass. You mean my mother's sister? The woman who actually supported me while you were busy creating your perfect new family? That aunt? The one who shares absolutely no relation with Zoe whatsoever. Zoe finally glances up from her phone, her features contorting into the familiar manipulative expression that invariably preceded her calculated tears. You've always been such a horrible sister. She sobs on cue. You've never stopped resenting me. You've always hated me. Eva, Marcus interjects, voice hardened with disapproval. We're extremely disappointed. This isn't how we raised you. You never raised me at all. The words erupt from Eva like lava. You emotionally abandoned me the moment you married Carol. Don't you dare lecture me about upbringing. Eva grabs her purse and strides toward the exit, every muscle in her body trembling with rage. Behind her, she hears Zoe's practiced theatrical weeping, Carol's soothing murmurs, and Marcus calling after her, but she doesn't hesitate. She couldn't escape that toxic tableau fast enough. Eva believed that would conclude the matter. She truly did. But the following morning, her phone rings. Marcus again. Eva, you need to listen, he begins before she can even speak. You're the older sister. You have a responsibility to help Zoe. This is what real families do for each other. Eva nearly laughs from the absurdity. Family? Now you suddenly want to discuss family? Where was this familial devotion when Carol evicted me from my childhood bedroom? When Zoe was systematically tormenting me? When you all forgot to include me in Christmas celebrations? Those situations were completely different, he insists. You're being utterly unreasonable. Zoe requires. You've lost touch with reality, Eva cuts him off sharply. Genuinely delusional if you imagine I'd surrender my condominium to someone who's dedicated her entire existence to undermining me. Don't contact me about this again. She terminates the call, but the harassment continues. Within minutes, her phone floods with messages from Carol. You've always harbored pathological jealousy toward Zoe. You're exactly like your father's side, selfish and ungrateful. After everything we've sacrificed for you. Eva stares at these texts, experiencing an unexpected wave of tranquility washing over her. Marcus continues calling throughout the day, but she stops responding. What purpose would it serve? The exchange would merely cycle endlessly, him demanding she surrender her home, her refusing, him manipulating her with guilt about familial obligations. A week following the confrontation, Eva proceeds with her housewarming celebration. Her penthouse fills with people who genuinely matter, colleagues from the hospital, fellow investors, and her close friends. The authentic laughter and conversation feels purifying, dissolving the toxicity from the previous weekend. Eva. Nadia calls from the kitchen area. We're completely out of champagne. Eva heads toward the wine cooler when her friend Tyler grasps her elbow, his expression uncharacteristically grave, unusual for the typically jovial attorney. I need to show you something important, he says quietly, directing her toward the private study. You might want to prepare yourself. Eva perches on her new leather chair as Tyler retrieves his phone. He hesitates momentarily before passing it to her. I was at the Capitol Grill last evening with clients, he explains. Look who I noticed in the private dining section. The first image makes Eva's pulse stutter. There sits Carol, her mother, in an intimate corner booth. But she isn't alone. A man Eva doesn't recognize has his arm possessively around her shoulders, and they're kissing, not a casual greeting, but a passionate exchange that unmistakably reveals their relationship. Additional photos follow, Carol laughing intimately, her hand resting on the man's chest, him feeding her dessert from his fork, their fingers intertwined intimately. They appear completely comfortable, like lovers sharing a well-established routine. I couldn't believe my eyes, Tyler continues. I know taking these was inappropriate, but... Forward them to me, Eva interrupts, her voice barely audible. Please. After her final guest departs, Eva sits in her darkened living room, examining the photos Tyler sent. Who is this mystery man? She needs answers. Identifying him proves surprisingly simple. Carol maintains minimal digital privacy, he appears prominently in her Facebook connections. Andrew Carlisle. Eva clicks his profile and feels reality shift beneath her. Andrew Carlisle has worked at Westlake University for 20 years, the same institution where Carol handles administrative duties, the same workplace she'd been employed since before marrying Marcus. Eva navigates through his photo archive, spanning decades. University functions, faculty retreats, departmental celebrations, and in countless images, there she is, sometimes barely visible in backgrounds, sometimes partially cropped, but Eva recognizes her mother instantly. 20 years of photographic evidence revealing a relationship clearly transcending professional boundaries. One particular image from 15 years prior captures Eva's attention, a woman wearing a distinctive blue dress, face angled away from the camera, sitting beside Andrew in a campus garden. The caption reads, "Perfect Wednesday escape." The woman's distinctive hairstyle, her characteristic posture, that signature blue dress still hanging in her closet, unmistakably Carol, 3 years into her marriage with Marcus. Eva opens another browser tab and searches recent photos of Andrew Carlisle. As his image fills her screen, something strikes her with stunning clarity, those distinctive eyes, that characteristic nose, the slight asymmetrical smile that appears even in serious expressions. Eva retrieves a recent photo of Zoe on her phone and positions it beside the screen. The resemblance is undeniable. How had she never recognized it? Zoe bears absolutely no resemblance to Marcus, she never has, but she's practically Andrew Carlisle's female duplicate. The revelation festers in Eva's mind for 48 hours. She moves through her days in a fog, burdened by her discovery. Each time she examines the photographs, nausea overwhelms her, 20 years of calculated deception, with Marcus completely oblivious to the betrayal. When his number illuminates her phone screen again, she nearly rejects the call. But something compels her to answer. Eva, his voice sounds authoritative, professorial. The tone he adopts when attempting to command respect. We require a serious discussion. Come to the house immediately. Eva contemplates revealing everything instantly, exposing her mother's 2-decade affair, unveiling Zoe's biological parentage, but her clinical instinct counsels patience. I'll arrive in 20 minutes, she responds instead. They await her in the formal living room, just Marcus and Carol this time. No Zoe. Take a seat, Eva, Marcus directs, and she complies, performing the role of obedient daughter one final time. He bypasses small talk entirely. Your recent behavior has been thoroughly disappointing, he begins, pacing before the marble fireplace. This selfishness, this refusal to support your sister, it ends now. Eva watches Carol nodding in agreement, her stomach clenching with disgust. The sheer audacity of this woman, demanding she surrender her condominium to her illegitimate daughter. I've reached a decision, Marcus continues, his voice hardening. Either you transfer ownership of your penthouse to Zoe, or I'm removing you from my will permanently. No inheritance, no financial support, nothing. Carol's expression radiates triumph. They genuinely believe they've trapped her. Eva carefully arranges her features to display shock and vulnerability. I need time to consider this, she whispers, observing Carol's smile widen with satisfaction. That's sensible, Marcus says, his tone softening slightly. Take some time to contemplate what truly matters. May I use your restroom first? Eva asks, deliberately making her voice quaver. Marcus dismisses her request with a casual wave, and Eva hurries upstairs. Instead of heading to the bathroom, she slips into Zoe's bedroom, her childhood room. Everything appears expensively curated and perfect, mirroring Zoe's privileged existence. Her hairbrush rests on the vanity, bristles capturing numerous dark strands that perfectly match Andrew Carlisle's. Eva's hands tremble slightly as she removes a sterile evidence bag from her purse and carefully collects several strands. Next, she quietly enters Marcus's bedroom. His comb sits precisely where it always has, on his dresser beside his wedding photograph. The irony doesn't escape Eva as she transfers his hair into a second labeled bag. That evening, Eva researches forensic DNA testing services, specifically facilities conducting paternity verification with legally admissible results. The premium service isn't inexpensive, nearly $2,000 for expedited processing, but represents an invaluable investment. The following morning, Eva walks confidently into the testing facility with her 2 meticulously labeled specimen bags. The technician details the procedure, provides documentation forms, and confirms she'll receive comprehensive results within 10 business days. The DNA test results arrive in a crisp white envelope. Eva's fingers tremble slightly as she breaks the seal, though she already anticipates the contents. The clinical terminology leaves no room for ambiguity. The alleged father is excluded as the biological father of the tested child. Probability of paternity, 0.00%. As if choreographed, Eva's phone illuminates with Carol's name. We've grown impatient, she snaps without preamble. Marcus and I require your decision regarding the condominium within 72 hours. Otherwise, consider yourself completely disinherited. Eva maintains perfect composure, her voice professionally detached. Actually, I've been reconsidering the situation. I'll join you for dinner this Saturday. We can finalize everything then. Saturday evening, Eva drives to their suburban residence again, the comprehensive test results secured in her leather portfolio. This time, the tension in her chest isn't anxiety, it's calculated anticipation. They await her in the formal living room, resembling predators who believe they've cornered vulnerable prey. Carol radiates smug satisfaction, Zoe sprawls indolently examining her freshly manicured nails with a condescending smirk, while Marcus stands authoritatively by the fireplace attempting to project stern authority while barely concealing his presumed victory. Finally, Zoe drawls imperiously. Took you long enough to reach the inevitable conclusion. Marcus approaches, placing what he intends as a paternal hand on Eva's shoulder. I'm pleased you've reconsidered, Eva. This exemplifies true family values, supporting one another. Eva deliberately shrugs away from his touch. I haven't altered my position whatsoever. I will never relinquish my property. Not today, not ever. You ungrateful, selfish brat. Marcus's face flushes crimson. That's absolutely final. You're permanently removed from my will. Everything transfers to Zoe, my authentic daughter, who genuinely understands familial loyalty. Eva can't suppress it, she laughs. The sound reverberates through the room, causing them to stare as though witnessing a psychiatric episode. Your authentic daughter? Eva reaches deliberately into her portfolio. That's particularly fascinating, Marcus, because I've brought something you urgently need to examine. She extracts the envelope and extends it toward him. He snatches it, glowering as he roughly extracts the documents. Read it, Eva instructs quietly. Read it aloud, please. He begins reading, his voice initially self-assured. DNA relationship analysis report. Then his expression transforms dramatically. Color drains from his face as he reaches the critical conclusion. The documents visibly tremble in his grasp. Carol produces a sound like someone experiencing physical trauma. This is completely fabricated, she shrieks, features contorted with undisguised panic. She manufactured these documents. She's manipulating you against me, against us. I possess additional evidence, Eva states calmly, retrieving her phone while Carol continues hysterically denying everything. Eva's hand remains perfectly steady as she accesses the photographs Tyler provided. Observe. Profound silence engulfs the room as she displays the screen. There is Carol, captured in an intimate embrace with Andrew Carlisle. The digital timestamp confirms it was recorded just 9 days ago. Carol collapses onto the sofa, her facade of superiority finally disintegrating. Marcus, please, she whispers desperately. I can explain everything. Explain? He thunders, causing everyone to flinch instinctively. Explain precisely what? How long has this continued? He demands. 20 years, she whispers, tears streaming unchecked. He's my university colleague. Zoe. Andrew is her biological father. The silence that descends feels physically oppressive. Eva observes Marcus's entire perception of reality implode in real time, 20 years of deception collapsing around him. Without uttering another syllable, Eva collects her portfolio and exits gracefully, leaving them to confront their shattered reality. The subsequent week passes in a disorienting haze. Eva maintains her investment meetings, returns home, attempts to process the seismic events that transpired. Through professional connections, she learns that Carol and Zoe have vacated Marcus's residence, that Marcus has retained the city's premier divorce attorney, that the scandal has permeated their academic and social circles with unprecedented velocity. When Marcus's name appears on Eva's phone display 7 days later, she nearly declines. But something within her, perhaps curiosity, perhaps a flicker of compassion, prompts her to answer. Could we possibly meet? His voice sounds hoarse, depleted. Driftwood Coffee House at noon, she suggests concisely. Eva discovers him hunched at a secluded corner table, staring vacantly into an untouched cappuccino. He appears to have aged a decade in mere days, unshaven, posture collapsed, wedding band conspicuously removed. I've initiated divorce proceedings, he states without greeting. Carol and Zoe have departed permanently. I demanded they vacate immediately. I've terminated Zoe's doctoral program funding as well. Why should I finance another man's offspring? Eva sits silently, methodically stirring her espresso, waiting patiently. Eva, His voice fractures. I've been an unconscionably inadequate father to you. Yes, she acknowledges dispassionately. That's accurate. Throughout these years, I consistently prioritized Zoe. I permitted Carol to marginalize you within your own home. I neither protected nor supported you. I failed you comprehensively. Indeed, Eva confirms. And you never would have recognized this reality without discovering Zoe's paternity. Had she genuinely been your biological daughter, you would have perpetuated my second-class status indefinitely. You would have appropriated my condominium and transferred it to her without hesitation. He visibly recoils from her precision but offers no contradiction. Please, he implores, extending his hand across the table. Eva deliberately withdraws hers before contact occurs. Please allow me an opportunity for redemption. Permit me to become the father you always warranted. That conversation occurred 3 months earlier. They meet occasionally now, coffee, lunch, carefully navigating conversations about neutral subjects. He attempts to compensate for decades lost, sharing anecdotes about Eva's mother that had remained unspoken, inquiring about her investment portfolio, her professional network, her personal life. But complete forgiveness. Eva hasn't achieved that psychological milestone. Perhaps she never will. 20 years of systematic rejection and emotional neglect created wounds unlikely to heal rapidly, if they ever fully heal at all. Regarding Carol and Zoe, Eva occasionally overhears fragments through professional circles. They reportedly relocated to Andrew Carlisle's lakeside property, finally living openly the arrangement they'd secretly orchestrated for decades. Truthfully, Eva remains indifferent to their circumstances. They represent a concluded chapter in her life narrative. As she moves through her penthouse, her exclusive sanctuary that remains inviolably hers, she experiences something long absent from her existence, genuine tranquility. Eva stands on the spacious terrace of her brand-new penthouse condominium, surrounded by designer furniture boxes and the intoxicating scent of accomplishment. My God, this view is breathtaking, she thinks, heart swelling with fierce pride as her fingers trace the cool marble countertops, surfaces that belong exclusively to her. 10 years as a nurse, 2 years of strategic investments, and it was all worth every exhausting night shift, she whispers, drinking in every luxurious detail of her achievement. Finally, at 32, I've built my empire. The climb to this summit had been grueling. 2 years ago, when Eva decided to leave nursing, her colleagues thought she'd lost her mind. Instead, she'd leveraged her savings into her first property, then another, calculating risk with the same precision she once used to measure medications. From that moment forward, Eva lived with ruthless discipline. No impulsive purchases, no lavish vacations, nothing but reinvesting every possible dollar. But even with her methodical approach, this crowning achievement wouldn't have materialized without her Aunt Rebecca. "Thank you, Aunt Becca," Eva murmurs, touching the elegant silver frame holding a photo of the distinguished doctor who'd been her sanctuary when no one else had been. 1 year ago, Rebecca had passed away, leaving Eva $150,000 in her will, the catalyst that made this penthouse acquisition possible. The banker's poorly concealed shock when Eva presented her portfolio still brings a satisfied smile to her face. The transformation from disbelief to grudging respect was delicious. Eva's phone lights up with notifications as friends and colleagues respond to her penthouse photos on social media. "Absolutely stunning, Eva. Real estate queen strikes again. When's the housewarming celebration?" The warm glow of genuine admiration from her chosen family feels validating after everything she's endured. But just as she's savoring this triumph, her phone rings. The name on the screen makes her stomach clench instantly. "Mom." "Eva," Carol says, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. "We need you to join us for dinner this Saturday at Bellini's." That single call resurrects everything Eva has worked so hard to bury. After Eva's parents divorced when she was 9, her world imploded. Her mother Carol wasted no time. Within a year she married Marcus, and shortly thereafter they had Eva's younger sister, Zoe. Carol had always been cold toward Eva, even before the remarriage. But after Zoe was born, the emotional neglect crystallized into something darker. "Eva, you need to keep your voice down," Carol would snap while Zoe shrieked at full volume. "Eva, we can't have your friends over this weekend," Carol would announce, while Zoe's friends turned the house into a chaotic playground. "Eva, turn off that music immediately," Carol would demand, while Zoe blasted reality shows at deafening levels. Meanwhile, Zoe received everything: designer clothes without having to ask, expensive electronics as random surprises, and family vacations scheduled entirely around her preferences. Eva became practically invisible in her childhood home, drifting silently through rooms while Carol and Marcus lavished attention on their perfect daughter. Sometimes Eva wondered if they even registered her existence at all. Thank God for Aunt Rebecca. Eva doubts she would have survived those years without her mother's sister. As the hostility intensified at home, Eva began spending increasingly more time at her aunt's comfortable house, just a short drive away. Rebecca's door was always open, and her home became Eva's sanctuary. Her colleagues' children, Jaden and Nadia, frequently visited too. Unlike Zoe, they welcomed Eva warmly. They'd spend evenings discussing books, sharing meals, or simply relaxing in Rebecca's garden. Meanwhile, at her mother's house, Zoe had evolved into a nightmare. She'd accidentally delete Eva's school assignments, deliberately stain her nursing uniforms, and even spread vicious rumors about her. Yet somehow, Eva was invariably blamed for these conflicts. "Eva, why must you antagonize your sister?" Carol would accuse. "Eva, stop creating drama with Zoe," Marcus would parrot, never once considering Eva's perspective. The day Eva received her nursing school acceptance letter remains etched in her memory as pure liberation, not because of the program itself, though securing a merit scholarship felt validating, but because it represented escape. The university was across the country, and Aunt Rebecca contributed what the scholarship didn't cover. Nursing school felt like gulping oxygen after years of suffocation. Eva immersed herself in anatomy classes and clinical rotations, called Aunt Rebecca religiously twice weekly, and tried to erase thoughts of her mother's household. Carol rarely reached out anyway, she was consumed with her real daughter. When she did call, their exchanges were perfunctory and hollow. After graduation, Eva reluctantly returned to her home state for an emergency department position at Memorial Hospital that offered exceptional experience and compensation. She briefly considered staying with her mother and Marcus until securing an apartment, but Carol instantly crushed that possibility. "Oh, we've converted your room into Zoe's study space," she announced with transparent insincerity when Eva called. "She needs additional room for her university materials. You can understand that, surely?" Marcus remained completely silent. Not a single word of protest. Mercifully, Aunt Rebecca welcomed Eva with genuine warmth. She stayed there while beginning her demanding nursing career, and within several months, had saved enough for a modest apartment rental. Then, just over a year ago, Aunt Rebecca died unexpectedly, a massive cerebral hemorrhage in her sleep. She left her medical practice funds to her colleagues' children, Jaden and Nadia, which seemed appropriate since they'd maintained close relationships with her. To Eva, she bequeathed $150,000, carefully accumulated throughout her medical career, with a handwritten note, "For my extraordinary niece who embodies the same healing spirit as my beloved sister." The subsequent year passed relatively quietly. Carol and her perfect family hardly acknowledged Eva's existence. They didn't even extend a Christmas invitation. Not that Eva felt surprised. She celebrated instead with her former nursing colleagues, and truthfully, it was the most joyful holiday she'd experienced in years. Now, as Eva drives to the upscale Bellini's restaurant with acid churning in her stomach, the closer she gets to the downtown district, the more intense her nausea becomes. She checks her watch, 6:53. Early, but she'd rather be punctual than give Carol another excuse to criticize. Eva hands her keys to the valet, mentally counting her breaths until she reaches the private dining area. Marcus rises from his chair, his professor's face carefully neutral. "Join us," he says, gesturing stiffly. No greeting, no warmth, just join us. They're already seated at a prime corner table. Carol sits perfectly poised in her designer dress like an executive at a board meeting, while Zoe lounges across from her, scrolling through social media. Carol acknowledges Eva with a brittle smile that doesn't reach her eyes. Zoe doesn't bother looking up. "Take a seat," Marcus directs, indicating the empty chair positioned directly beneath the harsh overhead light. Eva feels like a specimen being prepped for examination. The silence stretches painfully between them until a server mercifully interrupts to pour water. Marcus clears his throat awkwardly before finally speaking. "Zoe has just been accepted into her doctoral program," he announces with rehearsed pride. "She's pursuing her PhD in comparative literature." Eva nods cautiously, uncertain where this conversation leads. Should she offer congratulations? Send a gift? They hadn't bothered inviting her to Zoe's master's graduation. "That's wonderful," Eva responds diplomatically when their expectant stares become uncomfortable. "She needs appropriate accommodations," Carol continues, her fingers tracing the stem of her wine glass. "Somewhere befitting a doctoral candidate." Another calculated pause. Carol exchanges knowing glances with Marcus. "Your penthouse," Marcus says, fingers drumming nervously, "would be ideal. Perfect location near the university research library." "I'm not interested in having roommates," Eva responds slowly, mind racing to process this surreal conversation. Marcus shakes his head, finally meeting her gaze directly. "You misunderstand completely, Eva. We're not suggesting Zoe share your space. We're telling you to give her your condominium." Eva actually laughs, a sharp, involuntary sound that dies instantly when she registers their serious expressions. They're not joking. They're genuinely serious. "Give her my penthouse?" Eva repeats, certain she must have misheard. "As in, surrender my home? The property I just purchased? The investment I spent years building?" "Yes," Carol states firmly, like a mother explaining basic concepts to a particularly dense child. "Zoe clearly needs it more than you do." Eva stares incredulously, wondering if she's somehow slipped into a parallel universe. Her penthouse, the property she'd carefully selected and purchased with her inheritance from Aunt Rebecca, they expect her to simply hand it over to Zoe, who hasn't even bothered to acknowledge her presence.